عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Our topic today about cerebrum. Cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. Here is the cerebrum. This cerebrum consists of many lobes such as frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, temporal lobe, and two additional lobes, limbic lobe and insula. Frontal, parietal, temporal, and occipital according to the overlying bone of the skull. The frontal lobe separate from the parietal lobe by this groove known as central sulcus. The central sulcus starts from the medial surface and extends on the superior surface. The frontal lobe and parietal lobe separate from the temporal lobe by lateral sulcus. It also starts from the medial surface here and extend on the superior surface. Another sulcus present on the medial surface and extend with small expansion in the superior surface known as Parieto-Occipital sulcus. From their name, it separates the parietal lobe from the occipital lobe. Within the occipital lobe, there is another sulcus known as calcarine sulcus. So, the main sulci of the cerebrum are central sulcus, lateral sulcus, and parieto-occipital sulcus. This is the outer surface of the cerebrum, which consists of the gray matter. This gray matter projects into elevation known as gyri and depression known as sulci. So each elevation here known as gyri, each depression known as sulci or groove. يعني معناها أي حتة مرتفعة هنا دي gyri وأي حتة منخفضة هي شنو؟ sulci. Anterior to the central sulcus and superior to the lateral sulcus here is frontal lobe. The main gyri of the frontal lobe. يعني حنسمي المين gyri عشان بعدين حنجي نعرف بهم areas of the brain. Okay. طيب. The main gyri of the frontal lobe are these gyri located anterior to the central sulcus. It is named precentral gyrus. Here are three gyri arranged from superior to inferior known as superior frontal gyrus, middle frontal gyrus, and inferior frontal gyrus. There are 4 gyri in the superior surface of the frontal lobe. Again طيب دي السنترال سالكس anterior لها طوال في gyri قاعدة قبليها، معناها حنسميها شنو؟ pre-central gyrus. And here are 3 gyri from superior to inferior in order. معناها حنسميها شنو؟ من فوق لتحت superior frontal gyrus, middle frontal gyrus and inferior frontal gyrus. The parietal lobe on the superior surface contain only 3 gyri. This one, which is located posterior to central sulcus, so it is named as postcentral gyrus. And here superior parietal lobule and here inferior parietal lobule. So 3 gyri: postcentral gyrus, superior parietal lobule and inferior parietal lobule. The temporal lobe located inferior to the lateral sulcus and consists of 3 gyri on the superior surface. As you see here, superior temporal gyrus, middle temporal gyrus and inferior temporal gyrus. On the medial surface of the cerebral hemisphere, name the important gyri and structures. Here is medial frontal gyrus, and this gyri, which is surrounded the central sulcus, is paracentral lobule, and this gyri located between the calcarine sulcus and parieto-occipital sulcus is quinus, and this gyri anterior to the quinus known as prequinus. Okay, the main gyri on the medial surface include medial frontal gyrus, paracentral lobule, prequinus and quinus. And this one is cingulate gyrus, which is part of the limbic lobe. This one is cingulate gyrus. The inferior surface of the hemisphere. On the inferior surface of the hemisphere, you can see this is the inferior surface of the frontal lobe, and here is the inferior surface of the temporal lobe or an occipital lobe known as tentorial surface. Okay, the main gyri in the inferior surface of the occipital and temporal, this is the temporal lobe and this is the occipital lobe. So the name of this gyri extend from the occipital to temporal known as medial occipitotemporal gyrus, and here anteriorly change it is named to parahippocampal gyrus and more anteriorly known as uncus. So this one is uncus, here is parahippocampus gyrus, and this one is the medial occipitotemporal gyrus. So this is the medial occipitotemporal gyrus. The name of this gyri is lateral occipitotemporal gyrus. As we mentioned before, the brain consists of outer covering of the gray matter known as cortex, and inner core of white matter. This is gray matter, and in the core here this one is the white matter. طيب نحن قلنا هنسمي الجايراي دي عشان نعرف الارياس. طيب الارياس دي شنو؟ For example, when we say primary motor area or Brodmann area 4, this color by red. طيب لو قلت لكم وصفوها لي، describe the location of this area. طيب هنوصفها كيف؟ We say that primary motor area or Brodmann area 4 located in precentral gyrus and the anterior part of paracentral lobule. عرفنا ان احنا هنسمينا الجايراي ليه؟ عشان هنا هنجي نوصف بيها الارياس. Again, location of the primary motor area. It located in the precentral gyrus and anterior part of paracentral lobule. The function of these areas, it gives origin to the corticospinal tract and corticopulbar tract. طيب, you already discussed this tract. So what are function of this tract? This tract responsible for movement, especially in the distal limb. So the function of this area is to carry out the individual movement of different parts of the body. So body is the primary motor area, or another name motor area or Brodmann area. The body is represented inverted with the limb and genitalia upward and the head downward. يعني زي الزول القاعد مقلوب inverted، كرعينه فوق هنا وراسه وين؟ راسه تحت. As you see, the limb or the fingers represented with our large area, the leg represented in a small area, the tongue and the lip represented with large area, trunk represented in a small area. طيب نعرف كيف إنه الاريا دي represented in small or represented in large area. Here, the area of the cortex control particular movement is proportion to the skill involved in performing the movement. يعني شنو الكلام ده؟ يعني مثلا الهاند هنا عندها skill movement، اللبس والtongue responsible for articulation، معناها عندها شنو؟ عندها functions or skill. معناها كل ما كانت الاريا عندها function ولا skill تمثيله في السيريبرال كورتيك هيكون شنو؟ بياخد حجم كبير. اوكي. secondary motor area or premotor area or Brodmann area 6, color here by brown. It located in the anterior part of precentral gyrus and the posterior part of superior, middle and inferior frontal gyrus. This area responsible for program the activity of primary motor area, and also this is the memory bank for skill motor activity. يعني كل ما الزول يتعلم لهم motor activity بتتخزن وين؟ بتتخزن لي في a secondary motor area. So now we know two areas. Area colored by red here, known as primary motor area. An area colored by brown, known as secondary motor area. Broadman area 4 here and Broadman area 6 located here. Broadman area 1 here responsible for carry out the individual movement. يعني الحتة دي مسؤولة من تنفيذ الحركة. أما الحتة الكولر باي براون احنا سميناها شنو؟ السكندري موتور اريا. دي مسؤولة من شنو؟ مسؤولة لي من ستور الموتور اكتيفيتي، ومسؤولة لي من شنو؟ تعمل لي بروجرامينج للاكتيفيتي اوف البرايمري موتور اريا. اوكي. Another area located in the frontal lobe and in the inferior, more specifically in the inferior frontal gyrus, known as Broadman area 44 and 45, known as motor speech area or Broca's area. Broca is a scientist who discovered this area. So carry its name, Broca's area. This Broca's area is more important in dominant hemisphere. What is the dominant hemisphere? Dominant hemisphere in most of right-handed people is the left, and in the most of the left-handed in most of left-handed people is the right hemisphere. This area responsible for formation of the words. يعني تكوين الجمل بيجيني من وين؟ بيجيني من البروكا's area or الموتور speech area or Broadman area 45 or 45 44. Let's move to areas in the parietal lobe. In the parietal lobe, there is important area known as primary sensory area. Area 312. This area occupies the both central gyrus and anterior part of paracentral lobule. This area serves mainly for proprioception, discrimination and intensity of sensation. So the sensory tract located here in the sensory tract terminate here in the both central gyrus, the area known as primary sensory area. The body also is represented inverted. The head located inferiorly and the limbs and genitalia located on the medial surface. Primary auditory area, area 41-42. The primary auditory area located in the inferior wall of the lateral sulcus. Inferior to it is secondary auditory area, so it occupies the superior frontal gyrus. يعني البرايمري auditory area قاعدة وين؟ قاعدة لي في الوول of the lateral sulcus, while the secondary auditory area located in the superior temporal gyrus. From its name, this area for hearing. So, what are the differences between the primary and secondary? The primary auditory area just responsible for reception of the sound. So, the hearing pathway terminates here. And the secondary auditory area interpretate the sound. بترجم لي أنا سمعت شنو. يعني هذه you now you hearing me. When this sound reaches the brain, it terminates in the primary auditory area. And the interpretation, now you understand. So here, many areas included here, but interpretation of what you hear, this is a function of secondary auditory areas. Sensory speech area or vernix area. Vernix area. Vernix written by W but pronounced V. Vernix area located in the superior-temporal gyrus with a small extension around the lateral sulcus into parietal lobule, inferior parietal lobule. Here, from the posterior part of the superior-temporal gyrus with a small extension into inferior parietal lobule. This is known as secondary speech area or vernix area. Also, this area is important in the dominant hemisphere. The function of this area to understanding the written and spoken language. So عشان نقارن بالبروكس area والفيرنكس area, البروكس area responsible for formation of the word. تكوين الكلام بيجيني من هنا من البرايمري موتور area من السبيتش area من البرايمري سبيتش area أو بسميها البروكس area. يعني تكوين الكلام من البروكس area. لكن أنا بفهم اللانجوج وبفهم الريتن لانجوج بمنو بالفيرنكس area أو السنسوري سبيتش area. إذا عندي واحدة موتور سبيتش area والتانية اسمها شنو سنسوري سبيتش area. موتور تكوين الكلام، sensory speech area بتفهمني اللغات المكتوبة والمنطوقة. On the occipital lobe there is visual area. Visual area we have two areas, primary and secondary. Primary vision area or Brodmann area of 17 located in the posterior part of calcarine sulcus. The secondary vision area surrounded it. On the occipital lobe, the primary vision area receives the visual pathway. So the interpretation in the secondary vision area. So the function of the secondary vision area enable us to recognize of object and to appreciate what we are seeing. أنا شفت زول هناك، الزول اللي شفته هناك ده دكتورة سارة for example or دكتورة أماني بتعمل interpretation. أنا شفت قلم، إذا الشايف الحاجة دي اللي عمل لي interpretation منه دي السكندري vision area. We have area here colored by green, which occupies the greater part of the frontal lobe known as prefrontal cortex. This prefrontal cortex responsible for make-up of individual personality. And this area also responsible for socializing, for problem solving, and other function. The test area or Brodmann area 43 located here in the posterior part, in the inferior part of the postcentral gyrus. So this is the revision of the areas. For example, this one is prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for make-up of individual personality. And here is primary. This one is the primary motor area. البرايمري موتور اريا قلنا مسؤولة من شنو؟ من تنفيذ الحركة. البري موتور area responsible for planning of the motor activity. And here is Broca's area responsible for formation of the word. And this one is Wernicke's area responsible for understanding of spoken and written language. And this one is primary somatosensory area. Another important area don't describe before, this one is somatosensory association area. So somatosensory association area located in the superior parietal lobule and responsible for stereogenesis. يعني شنو؟ recognition of object without aid of vision. يعني شنو؟ أنا خدت لك حاجة في يدك وانت مغمض هبشتها، والله الحاجة دي كنت موبايل. دي الفانكشن بتاعت شنو؟ بتاعت السوماتوسنسوري association area. قلنا دي بنسميها شنو؟ stereogenesis, recognition of object without aid of vision. أنا مغمضة أتعرف على الحاجة من غير ما أشوفها. دي الاريا دي قاعدة وين؟ في superior parietal lobule. Area 41 and 42 known as auditory areas. And in the occipital lobe is visual area. This is the cortex. The inner core of the white matter is the cerebrum, and this inner core consists of white matter. This white matter divided into 3 groups according to their function: association fiber, commissure fiber, and projection fiber. So what is a commissure fiber? Commissure fiber connects the corresponding region of 2 hemispheres Example of this fiber is corpus callosum. The corpus callosum connect the two cerebral hemisphere with each other. This one is the corpus callosum. And this corpus callosum has the following part: rostrum, genu, body, and splenium. Another example is anterior commissure and posterior commissure. This is the anterior commissure. طيب, association fiber. Association fiber connect the different region of in one cerebral hemisphere. يعني عندنا different areas or different region in the one cerebral hemisphere connect with each other by association fiber. Example of association fiber is superior longitudinal fiber and short association fiber. Projection fiber connect higher center with lower center. Example for it is internal capsule. This one is internal capsule and has three parts: anterior limb, posterior limb, and here is genu. معناها الوايت ماتر of the cerebral hemisphere نحن قسمناه لكم لثري، يا إما association fiber دي فينا within one cerebral hemisphere. الفانكشن بتاعتها إنها تربط لي different region مع بعض، تربطوا لي مع بعض، دي بنسميها association. لو ربطت لي higher center with lower center دي نحن هنسميها شنو؟ internal capsule. طيب لو ربطت ال corresponding region of the cerebral hemisphere مع بعض، يعني ربطت الرايت areas right cerebral hemisphere مع left cerebral hemisphere، وده example للارج commissure fiber هو الكوربس callosum. I like this picture so much. Okay, thank you.